Hey everyone, Harris O'Malley from DrNerdLove.com. And today, I want to talk a little bit about what's holding you back in dating. Not what you assume are your limitations, but the real underlying problems that are keeping you from the life that you want. I can already hear a ton of you yelling at the speakers or getting ready to launch into the comments section with a laundry list of what you think your issues are. You're not hot enough. You're not tall enough. You don't have the right job, the right house, the right car. You're too broke. You're too shy. You're too awkward. And you don't pass the Grimes test. And anyway, life isn't fair and women don't want guys like you. And if we're perfectly honest, all of that is exactly my point. If you have just started arguing with me in your head or in my comment section about all the ways that you can't, then you're giving a perfect example of what are known as self-limiting beliefs. Now, a lot of times, we're all our own worst enemies. I work with a lot of guys who have a host of dating issues. And straight talk, the single biggest problem that they all have in common is that they sabotage their own success. I have yet to meet anyone who is truly hopeless. 9 times out of 10, the guys who struggle with dating would thrive beyond their wildest dreams if they would just get out of their own way. Almost every guy out there I know who struggles with dating doesn't actually have the problems they think they have. Their problem, to a man, is that they're holding on to these self-limiting beliefs. Beliefs and assumptions about yourself and the world that hold you back from achieving your true potential. And the problem is that these beliefs are astoundingly convincing. They sound logical, even reasonable, but they're nothing of the sort. In fact, the only reason why these beliefs make so much sense to you is because they're an example of motivated reasoning. You want to believe them because they conform to what you already believe about the world and about yourself, even if it hurts. And in fact, especially because it hurts. Self-limiting beliefs are a prime example of what ContraPoints calls masochistic epistemology. If it hurts, then it must be true. But that's not the truth. They're perversely comforting lies. The truth is that self-limiting beliefs are almost always a reaction to pain and disappointment, especially pain and disappointments that are encountered early in life. We as a species don't like pain, even emotional pain, and we will find any number of ways to try to avoid it. So when we get hurt, such as, say, when we get rejected or disappointed in love, we'll look for ways to avoid ever feeling that way again, even if those methods hurt us anyway. And one of the ways that we try to avoid getting hurt is that we create self-imposed rules and beliefs that prevent us from ever being in that situation again. And that's all self-limiting beliefs are. They're just reasons to not do something. So, before we go any further, right now, I want you to do something for me. I want you to pause this and write down some of those self-limiting beliefs that you're holding on to. You don't need to do anything with them right now. I just want you to be aware of them and what they are for the moment. Most self-limiting beliefs follow a really common format. You can recognize them by the way that you think about yourself. The signs that a belief is self-limiting are often found in the ways that you describe yourself or what you are or aren't capable of. You'll recognize them when you use phrases to describe yourself like, I can't, I'm not, I should, I won't, I don't have, other people will, or other people are, or other people can. And you use these to describe the things that you can't or won't do and why. These get categorized as rules or sacred truths, either about yourself or about how the world works, especially if it works in ways that exclude you. Another common example of these beliefs include things like all women want X or only men who have Y can do this. Now, these are all easily disprovable for whatever universal rule you want to apply, such as, and this is just me pulling a random example out of the air, don't even know where this came from, the 80-20 rule. There are 1,000 obvious examples that break that rule. But when these touch on our self-limiting beliefs, you'll choose not to believe that they're valid. This is the result of a cognitive bias, known as confirmation bias. You only notice or give credence to things that confirm to what you already believe. When you encounter things that actually refute those beliefs, you'll dismiss them or find any number of reasons why they don't count, because you don't want to accept that these limits you've assigned to yourself might not be real. But honestly, my dudes, feels aren't reals. These are not rules, they're beliefs. And now, in fairness, these beliefs are hard to shake. These limiting beliefs are the definition of a self-fulfilling prophecy. The fact that you believe them affects how you act, and it makes it impossible for you to succeed. When you believe that women won't like you because you're not tall enough, hot enough, don't have the right chin, whatever, then one of the side effects of that belief is that you won't put in the effort that's actually necessary to meet people and win them over. Because to start with, you'll avoid approaching people in the first place. Now, you'll have all sorts of perfectly reasonable excuses why you can't go talk to that person or start that Tinder account for that matter, but all you're doing is talking yourself out of doing it because you don't believe that success is possible. And if you do try to approach someone, or you get pushed into it, you'll come into that interaction under the assumption that you've already been rejected, and you'll act accordingly, which will lead to folks not clicking with you and ultimately rejecting you. I mean, after all, nobody is going to be interested in someone whose attitude is, "It's okay if you don't like me. I wouldn't like me either." There are reasons why Eeyore isn't a sex symbol. I'm just saying. You'll give up too early and too easily. You won't learn from your failures, and you won't believe or accept your successes. And each time you fail, because everyone fails at times, you'll take that as proof that whatever it is you're trying to do is impossible. And as a result, you'll just take fewer and fewer chances until you quit taking any. Hands up if any of that sounds familiar to you. Okay, not literally, I can't see you, this is just a one-way thing. The problem is that shifting self-limiting beliefs can be incredibly goddamn difficult. The longer that you've been holding on to them, the more that they become central to your identity. Once something's become part of who you think you are, it's incredibly difficult to change that outlook. Our brains naturally resist the change. But I want you to notice very carefully that I said difficult, not impossible. Nailing Jell-O to a tree is impossible. Everything else is just really hard. Ho ho, ha ha, very funny. You're very clever, shut up. So, with all that in mind, I want you to take a look at your own self-limiting beliefs as we talk about how we learn to let go of them. And to start with, you want to avoid reinforcing them, especially when that reinforcement is coming from other people. Now, I know this sounds like the sort of woo-woo bullshit that you get in positive thinking seminars for business school, but you really are the average of the people you spend the most time with. Or, for that matter, the places where you spend your time. Now, I know we all like to believe that we are all iconoclasts who have very logical and sound reasons for believing what we believe, but the truth is that we are all an amalgamation of the influences that we experience from the people in our lives, whether we know them in person or strictly virtually. If you are spending all your time with folks who tear you down, even if it's just under the guise of friendly ball-busting jokey jokes, or people who are mostly negative and tell you that things are impossible and unfair and that there's nothing you can do, you're gonna believe it. Those influences just reinforce and reaffirm those beliefs. Similarly, when you see the same messages over and over again, whether it's your friends saying it or folks on Twitter, Tumblr, or dodgy subreddits, those messages dig deeper and deeper into your psyche. I mean, just look at the Insel community. For groups that supposedly exist as a support group for people, mostly men, who aren't having the sexual success that they want, they're a never-ending cycle of anger and hate for other people and for themselves. But when people choose to walk away from that community and quit participating in it, they start to grow and thrive because they've gotten away from that never-ending stream of negativity that keeps driving those toxic beliefs home, and they finally find themselves in a position to accept that maybe they're wrong. You need people who are going to believe in you, who want the best for you, people who want to see you succeed and believe in your potential. And this doesn't mean people who are just gonna blow smoke up your ass or who are all positive vibes only, man, but people who are gonna cheer you on and support you without bagging on you or busting your balls or blaming other people for that matter. The next thing that you need to do is eliminate should from your vocabulary. Should tends to end up being one of the most poisonous words when we apply it to ourselves because we use it to kick ourselves in the junk. We should be able to do this. We should have done that by now. We should. This is doubly toxic when our ideas on should are based on what we see in others. Teddy Roosevelt famously said, "Comparison is the thief of joy." And he's 100% right. The worst thing that you can do is base your standards or expectations for your life on somebody else's life or accomplishments. Because honestly, most of the time, you're basing what you think you should be doing on your fantasy about somebody else's life. It's really easy to assume that somebody else has it all together, has all the answers, or has capabilities that you'll never have, but the truth is that all you're doing is comparing your unedited footage to their highlight reel. Hell, it's not even that. It's your interpretation of their highlight reel, with all of those biases and mistaken ideas about what somebody else's life must be like. When you're using should and comparing yourself to other people, all you're doing is setting up a fake competition, trying to live up to a metric that you can't match because it isn't even real. You can't measure up to them because you're not living their lives. You haven't had their experiences, and you certainly haven't had their triumphs or their failures, and I promise you, they've had failures. You're on your own journey, and with your own experiences and your own lessons. It's like Hemingway said, "There's nothing noble in trying to be superior to others. The only nobility is being superior to your past self." And the key to that is learning to accept that maybe you're wrong and to behave accordingly. You need to open yourself up to the possibility that for all this time you have been wrong about what you thought your limits were, and recognizing that the rules you've made up for yourself are bullshit and that you can give them up whenever you want. Now, this doesn't mean that you need to be a relentless Pollyanna or believe in some Panglossian world where everything is awesome and you're perfect or some shit. You don't need to be absolutely positive and gung-ho 100% of the time. Hell, proving that you can blow past your limits because f*** you, you're not the boss of me, is a perfectly legitimate option. Go ahead and get better because you're pissed off at your previous limits. Improve your life out of pure fucking spite so that you can give the finger to everyone who told you that you couldn't if that's what it takes to get you going. As a wise man once said, "Angry gets done." Now what this means is you have to behave as though you already believe that your limits are bullshit and that you can break through them. In practice, that means actually getting back up when you fall and trying again. That means accepting that the way that you improve and blow past the boundaries of what you thought was possible is through practice and effort and training, no matter how hard it may seem. I know a lot of you watch Dragon Ball or Naruto or My Hero Academia or One Punch Man. You've watched a dozen shows about people who refuse to accept it when folks tell them that their dream is impossible, and they learn to achieve it through practice and training and determination and grit and believing in themselves. You already know how this works, so stop letting the jerk in your brain yell at you and start figuring out your training so you can take a level in sexual badass. But if you are going to work to believe that you can do better, then you need to also be willing to believe it when you see signs of improvement. If you're going to accept that your self-limiting beliefs are wrong, then you also have to be willing to accept the evidence that you're doing better, no matter how small it may be. Small changes may feel insignificant, but they are proof that you are gaining ground. If all of you have done is talk to someone cute for 10 minutes and you've never done that before, that is still improvement, and it is proof that you can do better. Like a bird chipping away out of a mountain-made diamond. Even if it takes you years to get to where you want to be, you're still getting there in the end.
Personally, I think that's a hell of a bird.
But the most important part of eliminating your self-limiting beliefs is to practice self-compassion. This is something a lot of people don't do and others get wrong. Self-compassion simply means being kind to yourself, especially in the face of adversity. Think of it this way. How would you talk to a friend who's going through a hard time and needed your support? You wouldn't be telling them to give up and that they're and need to accept that they're so suck it up, buttercup, because life is pain. You would be encouraging them and cheering for them and telling them to get back up because you believe in them. If they were hurt, then you'd be trying to comfort them. You'd be trying to get them back on their feet because you know that they can do it. I mean, even so-called tough love still requires love and the belief that the person you love can succeed. The greatest motivational speech in the world isn't just telling someone to get back up. It's reminding them that somebody has faith in them and what they can do and in that they can succeed instead of just giving up. Because
Cowards do that and that ain't you! You're better than that!
you need to apply that same sort of compassion to yourself. If you wouldn't tell your friends that they suck and that they're a failure, then why should you be any less kind and encouraging to yourself than you would be to a friend? I know, we all love to think that being the hard-ass drill sergeant is the key to pushing people or yourself to being your very best. But self-compassion actually improves your motivation to do better. And that's not woo-woo happy shit. There's actual science behind this. So, what do you need to do? Start by being willing to simply forgive yourself for being imperfect. You're going to fail at things, you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to mess up because everybody does. And that's okay. You're allowed to make mistakes. Being willing to forgive yourself instead of trying to kick your own ass makes you that much more likely to get back up and try again. You need to be your own biggest fan, to be willing to cheer your way to victory, to celebrate your ability to get back up, to try again, and to recognize that you can overcome the obstacles in your life. You need to be the one to remind yourself that those setbacks are just temporary, that it almost always takes more than one shot to succeed, and that if you can learn from the mistakes that you have made, then you can take those lessons and do better the next time, because you aren't defined by your limitations. You are not defined by your worst day. Those self-limiting beliefs are just lies that you've told yourself, and you're better than that. Hey, thanks for checking out my latest video. You've heard from me, so now I want to hear from you. What have you done to push your limits and break through the obstacles in your life? Or what's your plan to challenge those self-limiting beliefs and become the best version of yourself? Share your thoughts in the comments. I know I can't wait to read them. And hey, I know we've been promising you that Nerd Love Line special, and it is finally coming up. So this is the last call for questions for the Nerd Love Line special. If you've got a short dating question you'd like to have featured on here, then you can call it in to 512-522-6513 and leave a voicemail. Or you can record it on your end and send it to doc@drnerdlove.com with "for YouTube" in the subject header. And since we're talking about how to overcome your self-limiting beliefs and be the sexy badass I know you can be, if you want a guide to help you get there, then check out my book, New Game Plus, The Geek's Guide to Love, Sex, and Dating. This is the A to Z instruction manual to dating that we all wish we had gotten when we were growing up. Links to buy it are in the show notes, so go check it out. And if you do check it out, or any of my other books for that matter, do me a huge solid and be sure to rate and review it on Amazon and Goodreads. Now, we've got the point where if you're digging the series, you know what to do, hit the thumbs up, share it around with your friends, ring the bell, subscribe, etc., etc. You've been here before, you know how all this works. But if you are really enjoying these videos, and I mean really enjoying them, if you're feeling like you're getting a lot out of the series, if you're finding that it's helping, and you want to support the channel and in the process help fund some awesome new projects, then consider becoming a patron at patreon.com/drnerdlove. Even $1 is a huge help, but at $3 per month or more, then you get access to some excellent patron-only content. Meanwhile, follow me on Twitter at @drnerdlove. Join the Facebook page at facebook.com/drnerdlove. And as always, hit that logo to subscribe, check out my other videos, and I will see you here next time with more about love, sex, and dating. Later.